Hi everybody, it's Miss Molly from the Roy Hyatt Environmental Center. Welcome back. Today, we are going to talk about the secret life of plants, the reproductive cycle of the flowering and non-flowering plants. Come on, let's get started. First, we need to discuss the difference in flowering and non-flowering plants. Flowering plants are those that form flowers in order to produce seeds for reproduction. Non-flowering plants would include conifers, like these pine trees, but it would also include spore-bearing plants, such as these ferns. So we'll start with the one that we are most familiar with, the flowering plant. Flowers come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. Some are huge, like the sunflower, and some are very tiny. But most are about 1 to 3 inches across. Some are flat, some are cup-shaped. Some have very few petals, and some have lots of petals. Some look like a single flower, but are actually a cluster of lots of tiny little flowers. There are all types of flowers. Why are there so many different colors? The beautiful colors attract pollinators. Some insects only see certain colors. That way they don't take the pollen from one flower to a different kind of flower. In addition to the colors of flowers, nectar also attracts pollinators. The plant produces nectar to attract the pollinators, and it's their reward for transferring pollen from one flower to another. Many of the pollinators have specialized mouths and mouth parts to collect the nectar, as you can see in this video. While collecting the nectar, the stamen, which contains the anther and produces the pollen, makes contact with the pollinator's body, and the pollen attaches to the pollinator's body. When visiting the next flower, the pollen that is stuck to the pollinator attaches to the pistil of that flower, and pollination takes place. The pollen then travels down a tube in the pistil, moving to the ovary of the flower and becomes a seed. This is called fertilization. Once the seed is formed, the colorful petals fall off and the ovary ripens into a fruit. The seed is found inside the ripened fruit. Sometimes fruit is not formed, and in those cases, the petals fall off, leaving seeds behind. For example, dandelions, sunflowers, and tick seed. All of these different seed designs are to help the seeds disperse or move across the landscape to settle in new places in order to grow. One way that seed dispersal occurs is by wind. Take the dandelion we mentioned earlier. Have you ever blown a puff of dandelion seeds? The wind carries the seeds far, far away. Gopher tortoises love to eat gopher apple. While eating the gopher apples, they also eat the large seed. The gopher tortoise then travels back home, and after a time, the gopher tortoise poops, and the large seed is left in the poop. Can you think of other animals that might eat seeds and leave them far away in their poop? Other ways seed dispersal occurs is through rain, flowing water, or riding on an animal's body. Have you ever taken your dog on a walk? Did you ever come home and have things stuck all over your pants and your dog's fur? Those are seeds. Can you think of another animal that might carry seeds from one place to another on their body? Seeds have absolutely no idea where they'll end up. When they finally land somewhere, the rain will fall, moisten the seed coat, allow it to crack open, and it'll begin to grow. As it grows, it makes its way through the soil and emerges as a seedling. This process is called germination. Then there are those that don't have flowers. Pine trees are one example. How do they get the pollen to the female part of the plant? Well, first, let's figure out what the female part of the plant is. Hey, I see pine cones all over the ground. There's two different kinds. This one, and this one. Which is male and which is female? Do you think this one is male or female? If you said female, you are absolutely right. The female is the one that we think of as a pine cone. When we're talking about pine cones, we think of this one, and it is the female. They can be small. Let's look at some examples. They can be large, like this one. They can be medium size, like this one. Or they can be teeny tiny, like this one. All of those are female pine cones. Now, the male pine cone never gets any larger than what we see here. But that is so tiny. Are they really important? Well, let's think about it. The male pine cone is extremely important. The male pine cone produces the pollen. When they're ready, they mass pollinate. The wind blows and the pollen is released in a mass of yellow dust flying through the air, and it's spread everywhere. It's spread all over the ground. It will spread out on other plants. It'll spread out and land on your parents' car, on dog's fur. It'll even go up your nose and make you sneeze. But it also lands on some of the female pine cones way up high in the top of the trees. The female pine cone needs the pollen in order to produce seeds. So you see, size doesn't matter. Both the tiny male and the large female pine cones are equally important. The female will eventually open, releasing the seeds, and the pine cone seeds twirl to the ground, whirling around as they glide with the wind, eventually finding their way to the ground where they germinate and grow, forming a new pine tree. Another type of plant that doesn't reproduce using flowers are the ferns. Ferns have spores on the underside of their leaflets. The spores eventually fall to the ground. Once on the ground, they wait for a wonderful rain shower. The rain helps them germinate. As they emerge from the soil, the fern is all curled up. It's called a fiddlehead. It got this name because it looks like the head or arm of a fiddle or violin. As the fern matures, the fiddlehead uncurls and opens up to the mature fern plant. Isn't it beautiful? Today, we've learned about the different ways that plants can reproduce. My challenge for you today is to get a piece of paper and draw a flowering plant, a cone-bearing plant, and a fern. On the back of the paper, I want you to draw the life cycle of the flowering plant. Hope you enjoyed learning about the secret life of plants today. Goodbye for now. We'll see you next time.